Here we go.
Money, money, making crap for money.
Hello, everyone. We are back. It's been a while. Here with Shannon, one of my besties, money mindset coach extraordinaire, and I am a business and body coach. I'm in the Bay Area. Shannon's on the East Coast. How are you, Shannon?
I'm good. I'm good. We haven't spoken or we haven't done a live in a while, but we had quite a few for a few weeks. So there won't be a break, which is great. Which is great.
So here we are, and we were talking about, what would be good to talk about and where our work comes together, and it feels very aligned to talk about Shannon's work on money, around money, and my work around food and business. But really money and or food. So Shannon, you want to start us off with your thoughts around restricting your money?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so much of the language around finances and money is about restriction, right? Stop spending, don't spend as much, don't buy as much, don't eat out, don't. It's always about, constricting, restricting, confining, reducing, subtracting. It's always about doing less, consuming less, having less, and outputting a lot less. And when it comes to women, that is intensified, right? Even more so, because you're obviously irresponsible with your money and frivolous and careless. And so, you have to make sure that you are really restricting your spending so that you can be the responsible adult that you should be, right? And I just think that it is such, well, first of all, I think it's a way to control folks, right? And it's a way to do it in such a way that you are not, you don't have your own autonomy. Like you don't have the sense to control your own finances, right? So somebody has to tell you, like, because you're naughty and you're not smart enough and you're not responsible enough, that you shouldn't spend on these things. And a lot of these things tend to be things that, women spend money on, right? So first of all, I think it's a way of controlling, right, women. But the other thing is, it's also a way of making sure that you take up less space, right? Because if you are the one who feels really confident with the money you have and you spend the money that you have the way that you want to spend it, and you can command, the fullness of life and the abundance and do what you want to do and go where you want to go, and you're able to take care of yourself and all of these things, well, that's taking up a lot of space. Like that is being a really big person, right? Versus if I'm telling you to shrink everything that you do and restrict everything that you have in your coffers, right? And make sure that you just, don't spread it around. That means that I can keep you small. You will be small. You'll shrink, just like I'm telling you to shrink everything that you spend. So I think it's really interesting to the language that's used. In finance, period, but particularly when it's directed at women. It's about shrinking, it's about being smaller, it's about taking up less space, it's about not using your funds to create a bigger life for yourself. The big is out, right? Big is out. Stay small, stay, tiny, take up less space, and that way you will be responsible as an adult and as an adult woman.
Yeah. There's so many great nuggets that you mentioned, right? Like the size, like playing small, the control,
Mm-hmm.
and then the gender part of all of that. Like it's totally genderized of like how, the top, when we were at that conference together in Denver, when you Google like women in money, right, it comes up of like, the top recipes to save, the under $5 or some shit, right? There's so much misogyny in that. Like that assumes that the woman is cooking
Right.
and she's cooking under $5. And then
Yeah.
on the flip side from men, right, you've got these are the best, the top 5 stocks
Correct.
to
Correct.
invest in. One
Because
is
yeah,
contracting and one is expansive.
exactly. We know that in order to grow wealth, you have to invest. So if you're directing someone towards saving and restricting, right? How are you expecting them to build wealth? Well, you're not, right? You're speaking to them in a way that they remain small at all times. And when you think of like men and they're never told not to spend, right? They're told to spend, to invest, to get fuller, bigger, better things, right? And when they talk about men and money, they talk about how they can even get more time. Like everything for them is more time. Whereas when you think about women and money, it's like, well, if you're over there clipping coupons, right? If
Yep.
you're over there trying to find the cheapest meals to make, that is not expansive. That is not giving you more time. In fact, it is redirecting your time so that you focus on this little area of life. And that's all, which is bullshit, right? Because it's all about just like reducing everything. And I really, really believe that if you are using your money on the things that are important to you and that you value, the other things will fall by the wayside. If you are focusing on the big things of value, you won't have room. Inadvertently, you will squeeze out the things that are not of value, right? They will just fall. There won't be any room left for them when you're expanding, right? And getting all of the stuff that is valuable to you, that is important to you, that means something to you. There won't be room for all the other nonsense, right? But we don't look at money that way, right? And like I said, especially not for women, it's always start small, stay small, reduce, eliminate, cut out, subtract, don't have, you know what I mean? And I know some of it may be caught up in the semantics, like the budget versus spending plan, and I get that, right? But I still like to think of whether you call it a budget or a spending plan, right? Because I think of the budget as something that's flexible, right? And it allows you to expand to the things that are important to you, right? And not just, don't have this and take away that, right? So I just think that it's so interesting how that approach is so, I mean, the misogyny is so clear, but it's just right in line with what we were saying about like food restriction, right?
Yeah. No, I mean it's so similar. And sort of where this comes into play, right? I mean, it's all related. So there's this woman, Tori Dunlap. She wrote The Financial Feminist.
Mm-hmm.
And she's made a lot of money, and she has a group called Her First 100K, and she's helped a lot of women make money. And it's really fascinating because she recently posted in the group about how on vacation in her swimsuit. And it's not even like the full swimsuit, right? I think it's like here. It's not even like we're not talking about Sports Illustrated, okay? I mean, and she got so much shit for that from other women. Like other women were like, "Oh, we're not here for your body. We're here for your money, to give us money advice." And so she talked about that. It was so fascinating. How if she, wow, great vacation, like you're in Italy, whatever, but because she's like a, slightly, I don't know, let's not even call her big. Let's call her like, I don't know, whatever. Like, because she has a different body than a thin body, like people, the same thing as, related to what you're saying, right? I mean, it's like, okay, restrict the diet, restrict the calories, the old, right? This is very old guard patriarchy, like, and then be thinner, be thinner, take, take up less space unless it, right? I'm not saying that bigger is better, but I'm just saying that if you're in touch with your body and you know, what are the things that you you can and cannot eat? What are things your body, right? And not beating yourself up over, okay, I had an ice cream or I had this. Like, you there are ways in which to soul nourish your body and not beat it up and not shrink yourself down wherever you are in your food journey, wherever you are in your getting in touch with your body, because the more you're in touch, the more you understand, the more and that's not these other voices, right, on the internet, or like talking shit about, oh, give us like money advice, don't show us your body, like, would men ever have to deal with that? So anyway, that's just my rant about that. But yeah, I'm completely with you on, not restricting the food and, cutting stuff out, because all the stuff that you basically cut out, right? And it's related, right? Because you often talk about not cutting out the latte, for example, right?
Mhm.
So if you cut out the latte and you cut it out and you cut it out and you cut it out, you're gonna crave that,
100%.
right? So rather than cutting out the latte, hey, what might it look like to buy a frother and make your own, which what's going in there. It's healthier, of like, you know, different types of matcha powders. There's different types of, you can experiment. It gets to be really fun.
Mhm.
You can like, experiment with milk, different types of alternative milk, or different types of, brands, and it gets to be more fun, right? So in that way, it's expansive, and you get to like, have that ownership, empowerment, right? That's yours. Somebody's not telling you, oh, can't do that, can't have that, can't have that, can't, right?
100%. And when you have that can't, it's exactly what you said. You start craving it. That's when we get the rebounders. That's where we get people who swing the pendulum all the way to the other side, because they've been restricting, right? And then they go on a shopping spree, or
Right.
they're like on their phone buying everything, or they're binging, or they're eating stuff that they probably never ate before and didn't really care about. But now it's like that's all you can think about. And it's like, allow yourself the nourishment with things that are good. So whether it's the good food, good meaning food that's can nourish your body,
Right.
nourish yourself with buying the things you really like. like spending money doing the things you like to do. You know what I mean? Like if you fill your cup with those things, right? The food that's nourishing, the time, the money spent on things that nourish you, then again, right? You're not gonna feel deprived, right? You're not gonna feel like, you have to give up everything.
Right.
Again, it's a journey, right? So there may be a stage in the journey where it's like, all right, I can't buy my favorite latte, we'll go back to the latte example, every single day. But maybe right now, while I'm in this situation, I'm going to buy it once a week. The other times I'm going to make it. I'm going to try out the different lattes. I end up saving myself some money. I discover one that might be healthier than the one that I buy every week. I don't know, right?
Yep.
But maybe after a while, then you get to the stage where it's like, well, you know what? I can't afford to buy that latte every day, but I may not want to. I may not want
Right.
to. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
I may not want to. I may actually like the one I was making at home. I may actually like having that extra money that I could use that I could put towards something else. Right. And so instead of it being don't, can't, won't, all of those things, open it up. Right. Like open it up so that you have the opportunity to try something else, do something else. And you might learn something else, right, about yourself and about what else is out there. And it's not so punitive. Like I hate that whole approach. It just drives me bananas. It's crazy.
And that goes back to the expansiveness,
Right.
right? Like opening it up, like even your languaging, right? When you talk about that from, the restrictive languaging of like the five recipes under $5 for women, or whatever, right? Versus the 5 stock tips for men. I mean, and if that's calling you right now, there's a lot of like, working with Shannon, right? There's a lot of, or, finding the community of women investing, right? What might that look like? That's expansive too, right? Because that's learning, right? Or working with me, or, getting into a community where people are fermenting. Like there's like fermentation clubs. I'm like, what? People like kimchi, like.
Really, hey, I love kimchi. And the thing is, what's fascinating too is when you have the freedom and the flexibility that the money provides and allows, you then have even more freedom and flexibility to explore everything out there in front of you. Like you can then even invest more in your health. You have the time, you have the money, you have the ability to try a million different things, right? And it's solely because you have that flexibility, you have that expansive approach. And then again, those are the things that are important. I'm thinking about like, this is a little off topic, but still with the food, like with perimenopause right now, right? And it's like, that's huge, right? Like, what can I do to, reduce, eliminate, whatever, any symptoms that I have as a result of this weird situation that seems to be happening that I'm like, hammer time, like what's going on? Like, you know what I mean? And having the funds and the time allows me to experiment beyond what somebody else who doesn't have that freedom with their money and their finances can do. So that in turn enables me to alleviate these symptoms sooner. That improves my quality of life. I feel better, I look better, I sleep better, I move better, like all of those things, like I'm way better to be around because I I have that resource and it makes a huge difference, right? So I just see how, and with the food, right, how it makes such a big difference. Like somebody who doesn't necessarily have the access to this wonderful probiotic known as kimchi, right? isn't gonna have the ability to try that and see, oh my gosh, what is this doing for my gut health? Huge, huge things, right? You and that's why it's like so destructive when you're saying to women, 5 foods for $5, or 5 dinners for $5. That doesn't expand their lives. It doesn't. But those 5 stock tips may, you know what I mean? And it's just the way in which, it's packaged and delivered is a setup for failure.
I totally agree. I love that about perimenopause. And I have a client a clustee who didn't have menopause symptoms because she started focusing on her health in this expansive way,
Mm-hmm.
right? And exactly what you're talking about. So it can be also that we don't have symptoms if we really are in touch with our body in an expansive way.
Right.
That is a possibility, and that the narrative is not out there, right? Because it's so like fear based,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like, the other thing that was coming through as you were talking is that, these thoughts, right, of this other side of like the 5, the restrictive narrative, the 5 recipes under $5 or whatever, right? Once we start, and maybe it's our mother or our grandmother or these other female um, role models that we've had, right? But once we start listening to that narrative and that restrictive narrative, and we're playing out that restrictive narrative that's not even ours,
Mm.
that's when dis-ease happens in our bodies. So when you have dis-ease in your body, you are no longer going to be like expansive on money or food
Right. Yeah.
or anything, right? So we want you to get to a place where, right? And again, it's like what you talk about, like with money, right? Like, even before neutrality, even before positivity, even before any of that, just having a conversation. And the same with food, right? Like when you start having these conversations around food, like, hey, I'm full.
Mm.
I grew up in a household, and this is so common, right? Where, food is waste and dying people in Africa and in Asian culture, it's like if you leave rice in your bowl, you're gonna marry someone with like pock marks on their face.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have anything like that in the Caribbean. Your parents told you about.
Probably.
But so when we start, you know, taking on those thoughts and those restrictive thoughts and restrictive narratives, right? We start embodying that. And when right? So it's just having the conversation. Hey, I'm full, and here's why. Or hey, I'm not eating dinner with you. I ate at home. True story, right? I'm gonna friend dinner date, right? This is my narrative. I'm owning it. This is
Mm.
my body. I'm owning it. It's so empowering, right? When we see other women, especially women who look like us,
100%.
talking about this, our own power and our communities and our sakes and our family and the next generation, right?
Yeah, I think, again, we always talk about seeing representation and how that matters and what a difference that makes. And just being comfortable enough to have the conversation, to talk about these topics that are, you know, taboo. Let's be honest, they're taboo for whatever reason. We don't have to debate why or like go through the reasons why they are. They're taboo topics. And being brave enough to talk about these things, because I think it does require an element of courage to talk about these things, because you have to be vulnerable. Um,
Mm.
because when we don't talk about these things, we remain, you know, small, and we don't know, and we can't grow, and you know, we can't share, right? And that's
Right.
why I'm so, like, I'm always like, me personally, when I hear something, like, for example, just, you know, off the cuff, that like something rich people do, right? Really rich people do. And I'm like, what? I didn't know that. Like, I'm always blown away by how you just don't have access to this basic, and I say it's basic information, because nobody's talking about this stuff. And it's, you know, it's a shame, because when we're not talking about it, that's just yet another person, another woman, another family that isn't changing their legacy. They aren't changing the trajectory of their household because they just don't have the information. Oh no, I think you're frozen. Oh, this is,
Oh no. Hello.
oh no,
Can you
you're
hear me?
back. You're back.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Okay. So what's our takeaway or our message or our,
Well, I have a few takeaways, but I'm not going to go
okay.
into the soapbox. But I think that one of the, always for me, is like, talk about money. Like, just find, if the folks around you can only speak of it in that restrictive way, in a negative way, you've got to find new folks. Okay, you got to listen to this podcast, you got to listen to this YouTube channel, you got to read my emails, you got to follow me on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever. You've got to become comfortable talking about money. You are not going to get more of it. You're not going to be able to keep it. You're not going to have a good relationship with it if you can't talk about it. So I think it is so very important to talk about it, because it really impacts every aspect of your life in so many ways, whether you like it or not. And I mean, I can't even tell you the amount of women who come to me and they're not comfortable negotiating their salaries. And I'm like, that's a setup. It's because they're not comfortable talking about money, they're not comfortable negotiating. And that sets women back for decades, because they're also the people who live the longest. They're the people who make the least amount of money. They're the ones who take the most breaks from the workforce. They're the ones that contribute the least to their retirement and savings. So when you aren't comfortable with the thing that enables you to live a fuller life, you're fucked. I mean, you're fucked,
She
right?
said it.
You're fucked. And so one of the things I do with the women that work with me is like, we are talking about money. You're getting fucking comfortable with it. You're gonna like it. You're gonna be okay saying you want more of it. Okay? That's okay. And that you're comfortable spending it the way you want to spend it. That's okay. And you're going to ask for what you want. Right? I mean, that's huge. It makes a huge difference. So yeah, see, I told you I wasn't going to get on my soapbox, and guess what I did? I jumped right up on that soapbox. So
I love that. I love that. Yeah. I think it's so similar around food and body. And, I've so many conversations with my besties around like food and body. And, you know, rather than worrying about everybody else, everybody else's stuff, just start turning your body to yourself over here.
mm,
just shifting this a little bit. That's what you're doing too.
Mm.
From right? They're so we're just turning the body here.
Totally.
What is it that you want, that you need? What is it that is going to be soul nourishing for your bank account and your fridge, right? And get yourself into those spaces. Like I was literally just came from a coffee date with a clusty, and she's like, well, what do you do when you hear the negative voices or whatever? And I'm like, listen, and I learned this from you, Shannon, actually, right? Like I said, I'm very careful with who I let into my ear space.
Mm.
So I told her about you. I have calls with Shannon, and she'll be like, wait a second, why are you hiding? And I'll be
Mm.
like, fuck, another fuck. There's a lot of F-bombs in this video. We're in a business mastermind together. My coach is in my ear. I have another marketing coach. I have an acupuncturist. I have a family constellations trainer, facilitator. I mean, other than that, if like people are negative, people don't like my shit. I mean, because I can be so negative on my own shit. Like,
Mm.
I'm not have a zero tolerance policy for that for your life.
Yeah.
And once you start doing that, then you're starting to curate these really great conversations around money, around food, around body, where you feel soul nourished just being in that conversation instead of wanting to shrink or contract or play small or be small or feel right.
100%.
What are your offerings
Um,
nowadays?
well, right now, I'm seeing one-on-ones, always seeing one-on-one clients. I love my wealth builders, love those. I also see one-on-one folks who want to get out of debt. But in the fall, if anybody's interested, in October, I'm going to be starting my group. I want to be debt free. And I think for a lot of folks, that's the first time that they realize that they can be debt free and live a debt free life, and that they can break that vicious cycle of being in debt, and that they can stay out of debt. And so I really encourage people to like join my email list, follow me on all the socials, really start listening to someone talk about money freely, unabashedly, without any guilt. I have a lot of money and I like it. And I want other women to have a lot of money and like it too.
Yes, preach. I love that. That's great. For me, I'm running some retreats. October is for soul-driven women entrepreneurs who are Asian identifying and are allies. That's October 15th through 17th in Oakland, California. I have another retreat in November for this it's the first and probably only all Asian women retreat where we'll be doing family constellations. We'll be doing family constellations the October retreat as well, but since I'm one of the few Asian identifying women family constellations facilitators in the
Sweet.
world.
Wow.
So that's November 2nd to 5th. So if you know folks, right, you may or may not be interested in what Shannon and I are doing. And if you have friends, family, folks in your communities who are interested, curious about our work and what we do, and how we show up in the world, please feel free to pass this on to them. Like and subscribe and share this work. It's very important work. You know, we've been in these rooms where we're the only two who look like us in these predominantly white rooms. And so we've been there. We
Mhm.
know. And we want to be able to help you grow and be there with you every step of the way and help you. So reach out if you want. You know, we do free consults to see if the work is aligned, and we look forward to serving you and working with you.
100%. Yeah, I would love for folks to book calls with us, to just talk to us, to get an understanding of what we do, how we serve. And also, for many of you, it's the first time that you're going to have this type of conversation with someone. And feeling okay about it, knowing that there's somebody out there who has been where you were, and they can help you. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to struggle. You don't have to do this by yourself. You don't have to question. And as you know, I have a lot of folks who, and I'm sure you do in your world, who, know that they want something different and they just don't know how to begin. And so I really think that the way that you begin is you book a call. Book a call. That's it. It's very simple. It's very easy. The stakes are not high. And you know what I mean? But it can totally change your world.
I agree. 100%. Cool. Anything else?
No, my dear, that's it. I think we'll be back next Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
Will we? I think so. Yeah. Great.
Cool.
Okay. Excellent. All right,
All
my
right.
dear. You take care.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bring me my money.
Get this money.
Where's the money?
How much money we talking?